All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to live on Wednesdays here with the Urban Gardener on the Urban Gardener channel. Um, Welcome to all of you here joining with me today. I really, I better turn that off real quick. I'm glad to see all of you here with me today, whether you are joining me live right now or you're going to join me on the replay later on. If you are joining me live, hit me up in that chat box right now. Let me know where you're growing, where you are, where you're growing from, all of that sort of stuff. Ask me some questions. Just jump in and get some conversation going if you can. And if you're joining me on the replay, hit the comment section down below and ask some questions, get involved. Just like I said, let me know what you're growing, what you got going on in your gardens, anything, any sort of thing like that. And ask some questions, especially too, that I can answer for us next week or in later live episodes as we get together live on Wednesdays here. We've been doing this for um, I don't know, several weeks now, a couple of months, and took a little break a little bit ago, but it's been really fun to spend the time here each week and kind of hang out with everybody, talk about what's going on with my gardens out in the garden spaces that I have, the different videos that we have going on with our different episodes that we have released around once a week or so. So I like to get a chance to get together here live with you all and be able to discuss about all those sort of things, kind of ramble on and talk about whatever, and hopefully have you guys join in with me on the conversation and let me know what you got growing on, and maybe we can get the discussion going that way. We've got Caroline Hatley joining us here from New Hampshire, NH there. Nice to see you from all the way up there. It's great to have you with us here again. Like I said, whether you're joining us live right now or on the replay, please just join the discussion. It'd be great. And another thing though too, really important, the thumbs up button. There's a like button right below there. Hit the thumbs up button and give this video a like, and help move it along with YouTube and all of that. They like to see all those likes there, and I like to see them too. So thank you. Thanks for all of that. And so again, I just, I'm one of those people who really just tries to jam pack too many things into too much time. And I literally, as everybody knows, I was kind of a little bit late getting started here because I'm just rushing to like put all these little pieces together, get back home, do all this sort of stuff. And I'm just rushing to get here onto the live program to be with all of you guys here. And didn't I was thinking a little bit about some of the things I could talk about or whatever, but as things have gone on with this live stream over the last several, or at least since we've started, I can kind of find a way to figure out something we can talk about kind of on the fly a little bit there. But let's see here, I'm gonna put that in there too here. But yeah, I just just try to do so much and trying to get so many things done, thinking I could get this done, I could get that done, and I could still make it in time. And when it comes down to it, I actually literally had to ditch a couple of things that I was planning on doing in order to actually just make it here in time to be here live with all of you guys and everything, which is not a problem at all. Don't even worry about it at all. I'd rather be here live with you guys than having to do some of the things that I was doing anyways. So it's a good thing there. Let's see here. We got, oh, Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. Hey, how you guys doing there? Oh, so good to see you here joining with me here. Joining us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Excellent, excellent. And I know that you have a great channel yourself there and a radio show and all of that you share with everybody and all of that sort of stuff too. So if you're joining us and you see the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden, I don't know if you can hit the link or whatever there or whatnot, go check out what they've got going on too. They got some really good content that they put out there and do some great interviews. Very knowledgeable about what's growing on there too. So it's great to have you here joining us with the discussion, because if there's any questions that are above my head, believe me, there's plenty of them. I'm sure that they can help answer any of those sort of things as well. Really great gardeners. Christine, hi from Michigan. She just said she just harvested her second round of potatoes. That is awesome. In ground, or they're probably in ground. I'm, people growing in containers is probably not as common or whatever, but I just harvested some potatoes myself not too long ago that I grew in she says, oh no, in pots. Excellent, excellent. Second round even too. Well, that's cool because I did mine in my containers and all of that. I was so happy with the success and everything. I didn't get around to like getting in another set or whatever, but I'm going to try to really push the boundaries of my container potatoes this next year because I really learned some things about growing them in containers and all that sort of stuff, which I kind of take you on the process over the last couple of years on my channel, as you can tell if you go check out some of those container potato episodes. But really culminating with one that we put up just a few weeks ago where we got to harvest out of our containers, and they're just nice size storage containers, and really had some great awesome sized potatoes. I was really happy about that. So after several seasons of not really having some success doing that at all. And let's see here. Yes, indeed. Okay, that's coming up, definitely. All right, Caroline is talking about saving tomato seeds, please. Well, and I did, and actually I did save right here on the computer, went into last week's video, because that's one of the things I encourage everybody, especially if you're watching on the replay as well, is to ask some questions, get a part of the discussion and do all that sort of stuff, and just get down in the comment section below. Also, another thing I've talked about with people too is talk about, and if you're willing to or want to, share your garden story, share why you got into the passion of gardening and all that sort of stuff. I would love to be able to share people's garden stories and whatnot. So those are things you can do down in the comment section below too, whether you're watching live or on the replay, and then that's something we can share later on. Caroline did ask a question last week, which I did have saved here on the computer to talk about, because I was really glad that I had one good question to at least talk about to get me going. I knew that as I was rushing and trying to get everything together for this discussion and all of that. So she asked about saving seeds. Do I save seeds from everything I grow, was I think the actual question, and then she was talking about wanting to save tomato seeds. Well, I do save a lot of different types of seeds, or in a sense maybe like I show in the last video, I believe it was the last video that I did, where I started the first part one of our garden tour, where I showed I got like a celery plant, and that celery plant has grown and gone to seed, and it's going to drop its seed, and then I'll look for celery starts to come up out of that. So in some way that's kind of saving seed, but it's using the seed on a basis in the garden, just letting it do its own kind of thing. So a lot of that sort of stuff I've got kind of going on in the garden, where some of the seed from what I have just kind of falls, like the Prax cherry tomatoes that I have, they just kind of grow in a big old bushes and whole plant, 3-4 plants I let grow out of all of, I mean, believe me, there's hundreds of little starts that come up out of the tomato seeds. That's just letting them fall off of the plant into the soil, and over winter, and then the next spring they just start popping up all over the place. And then I just thin it down to the a couple of the strongest ones, the best looking ones, and then I let them grow into like a big bush of cherry tomatoes growing along the fence line that I got there. And you can see that by checking out the last video I just put out too, is the summer garden tour. But saving tomato seeds too, there's a few different methods and a few different things that you can do as far as I've seen and I've looked. And one of the ways I actually really do it is because I like to try to save up a bunch that I use to kind of give away when I'm kind of out and about doing some of the things that I'm doing when I'm filming different episodes for the channel and all of that. I'll hand out with a little Urban Gardener card with some seeds and whatnot. And also I've done that too when I've given away seeds, I think like a year or so ago, and I had people send in self-addressed stamped envelopes, and and then I sent out some of the Prax cherry tomato seeds, and I think a different variety I had as well. But I try to hand those out. So what I do is, because it's a lot of seeds, I just ferment the seeds down. So I did a video on that, and what I'll try to do is figure out where that video is, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below after we're done here with the live chat and whatnot, so you can go back and check out the episode I did where I show you how I ferment my tomato seeds, and you can kind of do that with cucumbers and different things like that. They just got this like gel around them that kind of, you want to kind of break off or let break up and whatnot. But I've seen people just take tomatoes and and just put them on napkins and let it just dry right into a napkin and save that napkin, and just drop that right into the ground and grow plants too. And I'm sure that works exceptionally well as well, because tomatoes are just, they're like weeds, man. They want to grow. That seed gets in there, gets in soil, gets uh, um, germinated, and those plants just get going. I literally have to thin out hundreds and hundreds of tomato plants in the couple of areas where I have volunteers that come from the tomatoes I let drop into the soil, because that's just another method I use there as far as what I use in the garden. There's plenty of other types of plants out there. One I really save is radishes. Now, I like radishes. I grow a lot of radish, French breakfast is one of my favorites. And there's a couple of other kinds, and I always try a different kind as well every now and then. Um, but what I do is I just grow a bunch, and I can eat as many radishes until my heart's content, until I'm done, I'm sick of them and all that sort of stuff. And then I still got, plenty, left over that I can either, thin out and just let a few of them, which is what I usually do, and I'll give away some, but then I thin out and let a few of them go to seed, which, that's when they just, they're done for the season, and they push up their seed stock and start releasing seed pods. And that's another thing, you let a good handful or so of those radishes go to seed. Then when they go out, when they get and develop their seed pods, those little green seed pods are edible and they're delicious. They're really, really good. So then, I get another type of harvest out of the radishes. You know what I mean? So I'm getting a lot of those seed pods that I'm harvesting, but I can't harvest all of them and take all of them in. So, a few of them I let complete through the cycle and completely dry out on the plant. And then we take those seeds and I use those and I redistribute those out into the garden again for the next year. So radishes is sort of one that I really try to save when it comes to seeds. Um, Another one though, really, and there's only a couple of the tomatoes that I do save seed from, and I really got some light coming in there, but um, because they're kind of in an isolated part of the garden and they stay consistent each year, seed to seed, the seed stays consistent each year, and basically. A lot of the other tomatoes that I grow back on the back fence line and all of that, I switch out with new seed each year, and or I'll have seed that I've had it from the previous year if I'm regrowing another one. Because what I've found is I'm not, I get like, I don't know, some cross-pollination problems or whatever when I've got these bunch of different varieties, and it's especially prevalent in the peppers because I grow a lot of peppers in a grouping together. The seed that I would try to collect at the end of the year. Uh, I've found literally over the last couple of years, I've had problems with growing my peppers with their cross pollination and not getting the certain types of things that I wanted or was looking for and all of that in the garden. So what I do for those different spaces is I try to grow unless, like I said, unless I have saved seed already, I try to grow new different plants throughout the cycle each year. So I get to try different plants, different varieties and all that sort of stuff. But a couple of peppers, just because they're in an isolated area, I save the seed from, and then a couple of the tomatoes, because they're kind of isolated as well, I'll save the seed from too. But other than that, because I group a lot of things together and whatnot, I'm not really trying to save too much of that seed or whatnot. And I'm certain, cilantro is another one similar to like all of that in the garden, I let it go up, dry out. I'll use some of the seed either for like spices, because it's coriander as well. But I'll let those really dry out and break them up. Like I just did actually last week or so, because hopefully we'll be heading into a cooler season now. Cilantro likes to grow in a cooler season, so get the plants started up now. As we go into the cooler season, they should thrive. And so I saved the seeds on those. Several other things. I'm not sure I can think much more else on that, but saving seeds is a good thing if you really can, you know, and you've got some really good varieties, especially if you're getting some really good heirloom varieties from different heirloom seed suppliers or whatnot. Um, Another chance to talk about what we got coming up. Let me see here 1 second. Let me see if this helps. I don't know if that'll help a little bit, but I really got that light coming in on me. But the National Heirloom Expo is coming up, and I'm going down there in the next couple of weeks and whatnot. So a couple of the different watermelon varieties that I tried growing, wasn't very successful because of my own fault. But I'll just take some of the seed right there from, you know, they have these awesome seed tastings, you know, so you can get, or watermelon tastings, I mean, not seed tastings, but watermelon tastings there. So, you know, you get to try all these different varieties of watermelon. So I'll collect up and save some of the seeds of the watermelon that I really liked and try to grow them out. I'll probably try to do that again. They got several other things if it's there, you know, the different tomatoes, the different things like that, you know. Uh, get the chance to snag up some of those and whatnot and save the seed from those because they're there and they're, you know, it's a harvest situation where there's a ton of them. So, you know, when it's time at the end of the expo, they kind of let all that go for sale for charity. And, you know, you get in there and grab and take some of the different squash or this and that. And if you do that, they're heirloom varieties, you know, you can save the seeds from those and plant those out if you like and whatnot and give those a shot. Yeah, I encourage the idea of saving seeds and learning that process of taking seeds from your garden and growing them out. And even if you're learning and checking out the different types of seeds and how they're, you know, either successful growing them the next season or not or whatnot, you know, you're really looking for an open pollinated seed or an heirloom variety of seed in order to have a variety that you're going to want to save to be true to its kind in next years after that. Let's see here. Check this out. I think I'm missing the discussion here a little bit. I'm sorry. Okay, so Caroline, okay, yeah, she says, thank you. Her neighbor gave her delicious tomatoes that he grew. So, you know, and it's something, if he grows them year after year, then yeah, absolutely, you know, take some of those and you can check out my video on how to save them if you want to try a fermentation method of saving the seeds. Or like I said, you could try a bunch of different other simple ideas. Tomatoes are pretty easy. You know, you could probably even, like I do, in some sense, just go out into your garden right now and squeeze them out or just cut them up in slices and plant them around in your soil and see what happens this next coming season. Or I'd wait maybe towards maybe more towards the cooler point in time of the year as it's getting towards the cooler part. Let's see here. Some will pickle the pods in the fridge. Is that the radish pods? I'm sorry, I'm just catching up there. I bet you they're talking about pickling the pods in the fridge. That would be pretty good. You could try that. I'd have to try something like that myself. Oh, and Nancy's joining with us there. She says hi to everyone. She's late, but better than not at all. Well, hey, Nancy, don't feel alone at all because that's exactly how this whole live stream got started today. As I explained earlier, I was in a rush. I didn't get here till probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or, I don't know, maybe even 10 minutes late getting this live stream started and everything. And yep, they say yes, the radish. Yeah, exactly. I bet you that would be really good to have some pickled radish pods and whatnot. They're so good fresh, and you know, I really like eating out of the garden fresh and all of that, you know, and so I really enjoy things that are like that. And those radish pods really are delicious. So do that if if you're growing radish, save some. After you're done eating, let them grow out to seed. And harvest some of those little radish seed pods while they're nice and green, and enjoy those. And then and then when you've enjoyed enough of those and you've had enough of those, or you could try taking some of the extras like they're talking about there, and try pickling them. That's a good idea. I might try them because actually I mentioned this too. If you see the thumbnail for this actual live stream, there's a picture of a radish that I have in the garden. And that's just that was a picture taken a few weeks ago. But if you watch the video that I just put out, my summer garden tour video, you'll see I do a little. I show this radish that's in my that I volunteered basically in one of my other garden beds from which was just across from where I had grown my radishes, and they went to seed. So I'm sure one of those seed pods had made it over there, and one of these radishes had grown out of that bed. And I'm telling you that the radish looked really, really good, and it looked really, really nice. So, you know, I decided early on that, you know, it was a very nice looking radish. So I was going to go ahead and wait that one out and let it go to seed, because if I could get some really good seed off of that radish, then I was really hoping to have a really good, you know, genetics or whatnot, you know, for the next radishes that I get from the seed. And so I let it go, and I've let this radish go, and it's been growing for months. I mean, literally for a couple of months now. And if you see the video, this thing looks like it's been working out for a Mr. Universe or Mr. Radish contest or something like that. It's ripped, completely big and everything. And the crazy thing about it is that it's growing completely through this hot, hot summer. You know what I mean? And or I guess the ultimate point is that it's growing, and it hasn't the pressure of the heat or anything else hasn't forced this radish to go to seed yet. It's to me. I mean, I don't know. I've grown plenty of radishes over the years. This one's kind of really amazing me right now. It's got big, huge radish leaves, and it's producing little nice new ones still. And those new ones are edible and delicious too. Another part of the radish you can get something from as well. But yeah, this thing is just big. It's just ripped ripped radish, and it's just not going to seed yet. So I'm really having to wait this one out, because it's still got to grow through seed and set off pods and do all that sort of thing yet. But it's just a standout in the garden right now, because it's just, I don't know, it's something else. I'm telling you. And that's kind of what the fun thing about gardening is also getting to run into some of these sort of situations, you know, where, you know, something that's just kind of really unique and different from what you've experienced before, and you kind of get to check out, you know, that process of these different vegetables and plants, and the way they grow and the way they do things. But I just really have not seen a radish so resistant to going to seed. Yeah, it's like a snowman. I mean, it literally has got it's is something else. It is it's something else of a radish. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it, but you know, I can't wait for it to actually finally go to seed. And you know, going back to Caroline's question about saving seed and all of that, and talking about the radishes, you know, that's going to be a perfect radish for that whole situation. And I can't wait to see what the radishes look like when I grow them, you know, later on too. I was hoping to get them started here soon for this fall, but like I said, it's resisting going to seed for so long. You know, how long I have to wait to actually get seed off of the plant before I can actually plant out the new radishes. So probably have to wait until next spring before I grow out those radishes from that actual plant. But you know, I've got radish seeds saved from my last radish grow and all of that too. So those will be getting planted out here really soon as the weather starts to cool down, because oh, Sandra's here. Thanks for joining me, Sandra. Thank you. She says she's late, but she's here too. Excellent for you to come and join with me, and you know, and come and be a part of the discussion here and all of that. Again, here on live with the Urban Gardener on Wednesdays here. It's just a really fun time for all of us to get together, kind of have a little garden chat, talk about our gardening, ask some questions, do whatever, all that sort of stuff, talk amongst each other in the chat window, all of that sort of stuff. and have a really cool garden discussion here on Wednesdays. I'm going to be here hopefully every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly, and I want to talk about this too, actually. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work for the live stream when it comes to the National Heirloom Expo. I'm going to be gone, and I'm probably going to be taking like a 2-week break in order to go and do all of the things that I'm going to be doing down there. I'm hopefully actually going to be releasing a video pretty quickly into the whole thing so I can get that content out to you really fast. But I'm going to be taking kind of like a, I don't know, I'm not sure, 2-week break or whatnot to do that, and how I'm going to be able to do the live stream, because I want to, while I'm down there, while I'm doing the things that I'm doing for the channel and all of that, I want to be able to find a situation where we can get together and possibly do the live on Wednesdays. But if not, if I'm in a situation where there's possible, because I'm really relying on Wi-Fi when it comes to doing the live stream. What I found is that if I just use the service that I got, it's not carrying the weight of the live stream or whatever. It lets me go for a few minutes and whatnot, and then it just kind of drops everything. So that's kind of what I figured out with that. So if I can find a situation while I'm down there, even during the expo or something like that, we might set up live right in the middle of the expo, and if I got the good enough Wi-Fi kind of strength and all of that, and we'll just go live right there in the middle of the expo or something. That's something I would really, really like to do, and that might just pop up all of a sudden too. So that's something I want to kind of make everybody aware of, that could possibly happen during the National Heirloom Week there. That's the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th of September. So during the 10th, 11th, and 12th, it could be any time that I just pop up live right here and do some sort of live stream from the expo or something like that. So hopefully that'll work out, and if there's an available Wi-Fi type of signal that they'll have there at the exposition, then I'll try to set something up and maybe even get some people to join up with us live here with us and whatnot, and maybe have that be a part of the discussion. We'll talk with some different people in the expo. So something I'm trying and I'm working for, so that might be something to look forward to. But ultimately, if I can, I'm going to try to figure out something for that Wednesday, so we can at least get together Wednesday at 5 o'clock for the live on Wednesdays here, because it's really fun to get together with all of you guys and just kind of, in some sense, ramble on about all of this different stuff that's going on and all of that, and talk about our gardens and talk about all the different things growing on and all of that. Talk about saving seed, as we did here, answering Caroline's question that she asked me on last week's live stream, because that's something that's really important to future live streams as we keep moving forward and try to build this live stream into something really kind of fun that we can look forward to each week, is to get down and get involved in the comment section, and ask some questions, have some comments, have some sort of input into some sort of discussion or anything like that that you might want to see in future live streams, all that sort of stuff that we could do here. And also, as I mentioned earlier, and I've mentioned here over the last few different live streams, one of the things I'm interested in doing is delving into all of your personal garden stories about how and why you got involved in gardening, and why you have a passion for gardening, why gardening is important in your life, those sort of things like that, your garden story basically. And if you have like just a short, and it doesn't, as long as you want to write it, but not much, if you want to just give a short little story or whatnot down in the comment section or whatnot, I would love to hear those stories and be able to share them with everybody else in the audience in future live streams that we have here, because that's kind of fun to really get in there and talk about that. That's one of the things that I do a bit when I'm out doing other content for the channel. So I'm visiting and talking and interviewing other either YouTube gardeners, as we've done, and we'll have a couple of more visits coming up with some other folks from who are doing YouTube channels and whatnot. And I asked them, what, those sort of questions and those sort of things, what got you into gardening? It's kind of one of those, kind of stories that's kind of different for a lot of us, and sometimes it's the same, a family type of thing, and it's simple, but there's a connection there, and that's what brings about those sort of things, those sort of passions towards doing these sort of things that we really, really enjoy and love. And especially, for me and others out here who are doing this sort of thing with gardening and garden content and all of that sort of stuff, to be able to be out there and sharing our passion for all of this sort of stuff with all of you guys to help you drive you and your passion for gardening and all of that, that's something that makes all of this stuff even more fun and all of that. But to be able to connect with you guys and learn your stories and all of that makes this even more special. And also, to be able to share that also with everybody else too. So please get down there and let me know your garden story, ask some questions, do some things if you've got suggestions for future content, all of that sort of stuff. That would be great. And also, if you haven't already, hit the like button. That's right down below there. Really, really great to see the like button get smashed, because that really helps these videos get seen a little bit more through YouTube and all of that. And that's something I really got to start working on a little bit better though too with the channel and all of that, is kind of getting it out there a bit more so we can get more people involved in this discussion and more people in the audience. So sharing and doing all that sort of stuff is something I want to get better at doing, and asking everybody out there to share our channel with folks out there in different gardening places that you were having other discussions, across the different social medias out there and all of that, and the different gardening groups and different places out there. It's good to just get out there and get involved in all these different other places, and continue and make the discussion wider. And let's see here, just trying to think of what I had in mind for discussion. There was something else. I knew I was going to talk about something, but I'm not too sure. So if anybody's got a question, please let me know any sort of questions. I need some water here real quick. So, yeah, last video that we did, actually, I wanted to talk about too. We'll just get into that. I did a summer garden tour for 2019, kind of, it's a two-part, so I'm working on the second part right now. But I encourage you all to go and check out that video too, so you can see what's growing on in my garden and see all of the sort of different things that we have around in our different spaces, and how they're doing. I did this summer garden tour was kind of show a few of the things, because I had some comments and some different people who were really, really, complimentary of the garden from the video I did previous. And I was showing like beans and things like that, and people got to see the plants and those sort of things, and we're commenting about how there's no bugs and no weeds and all this sort of stuff. And I think I mentioned this last week as well. I just wanted to assure everybody that I deal with all of that stuff too. I like the garden to be somewhat nice, and I do work and try to do all that stuff as I'm taking care of the different container garden planters and all that sort of stuff. So I'm weeding and pruning and doing certain things to the best I can and all of that, in order to make things really look nice, because I like that, but there are parts of the garden where things are just out of control. There's no way I'll get control of it. And in some sense, I have to kind of let that go in a way. And, I show that a bit in this summer garden tour to, kind of emphasize the fact that my garden's no different than anybody else. It's a bunch of work in order to make it, what we want it to be. And but that work is enjoyable. That's what, when you get to look back and see a garden that looks really nice like that, and then you get to have people compliment you about how nice and how all of that stuff looks. And it's not just all the people that I show this to through the channel and through the different episodes and all of that compliment. My garden's kind of open to the community. I garden in alleyways, the one that splits the block this way down the middle, and one that splits it kind of a quarter of a way this way. And I live along these different alleyways, and I've taken advantage of using that space in all of the different spaces that I can. And I try to keep it up the best I can to make it look the nicest I can. But there's people passing through all the time. all the time, and I'm constantly getting people yelling out their car, "Garden looks great," you know, yelling out their window. People riding by on their bikes, going, "Man, your garden looks awesome," you know, all that sort of stuff. And getting to hear all those compliments and all that stuff, you know, really, really makes that work even more worth it. You know, even though it's worth it for me just personally, just to feel the, you know, how it feels to look at the garden, you know, visually myself and see what I've gotten, what I've accomplished myself and all of that. But to see the response from everybody else is really, really great. But I do want to emphasize that, you know, there's a lot of stuff that isn't growing as great, or I'm not doing as well with, and all of that. One of the things that I really, really show is one of the most common disease problems that you'll have in the garden, and there's many different types of it. Affects different types of plants and all of that, and that's powdery mildew. You know, so I've got some issues with that, but I've seen some videos about how to deal with what it does and all that sort of stuff, and I've seen advice from other people and all of that. So I'm kind of trying a couple of different things over the last couple of years to, you know, see what the deal with it is. I've tried things last year to deal with the issues and all of that. I didn't find that those things really worked very well. I found that it kind of kept going and all of that. But what I kind of noticed a little bit was that I was still getting production and all of that off of things. So I'm kind of running with this idea because I just watched a video on Ray's channel, and he kind of does some things that, you know, maybe against the grain in some sense, but I kind of want to follow along and see kind of, you know, just let it be kind of situation, and see how that affects everything, see how it works for this year's garden. Because, you know, I'm kind of just, I'm really, really in experiment mode with a lot of things. I'm trying to make and take a lot of notes about what's going on, because I want to really have a great start this next year, and really, you know, learn from a lot of those sort of things, and apply that all next year into all these different spaces that I've been working on over the last several seasons. And I think, you know, hopefully that I can have that, you know, take the garden, which, you know, really does look pretty nice in a lot of ways, you know, but if you get down and look in there, there isn't production in some things and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of go through a lot of that stuff in that summer garden tour. So, you know, in order to show that, and kind of show that, you know, my garden is just like everybody else's garden. You know, it's a lot of work, and you're dealing with all of those pressures as well, whether they're disease pressures, fungal pressures, pest pressures. One of the other things I talk about too is you'll get to see in this next one coming up, or you see part of it actually in the first one. I show part of it, and then I tease getting to see the actual plant in this next one that I'm going to do part two of the summer garden tour, where we talk mostly about tomatoes and peppers. So I'm going to talk about and kind of give an update of all the tomatoes that we've got growing along the row in our back fence line that we have. We have the group of peppers and all of that we've got, and I'm going to talk about the different peppers and tomatoes that are growing in other parts of the garden and whatnot. But there's also some other plants that are growing along that row there that I want to kind of go over and talk about. But one of them is a spaghetti squash, and this was a plant that got seeded late for one, and so in the plant, as it kept trying to come up and kept trying to grow, each new growth that came from it just kept getting eaten by a snail or a slug or something. It was just, but it kept battling back and kept growing something out. But eventually, what happens is the root system gets strong enough, the plant gets strong enough as it's fighting up here. All this is getting strong enough to the point where it can really release some energy into the plant, and it just stretches out all of a sudden to where it bursts past all of that sort of pest pressure and all of that. And with vining squash and whatnot, they can be some really, really awesome, big, cool vine plants and all of that. So in the long run, whether we get actual production from the plants or not, we're ending up with some really cool looking plants, and the garden looks pretty nice from that perspective as well. But next year, it's about production. It's about getting things done right. I think I've got some ideas on how to do all that sort of stuff. So those will be things that we'll do next year in next season's Grow and Garden as well, is be able to talk about some of those things that I did learn this last year, and be able to watch and show those sort of things progress along as we grow this next season as well too. So that's one of the cool things that about being able to do all of this stuff is to be able to share all these sort of experiences with all of you guys out there, and, you know, in the long run, just be able to share, as I say, you know, my passion for gardening with everybody. And a lot of that is just some of the learning experiences that I have as I go along and uh, you know, keep things growing in the garden. So again, talking about the last episode, this last garden tour, I posed a question to everybody about one of the situations that I'm dealing with. Is I've got a couple of watermelon plants that are growing and vining, you know, and also talking about vines, you know, and I've got a couple of cantaloupe as well that have grown up and vined into certain plants. And I've got other ones to show as well when it comes to part two of the garden tour as well. And I was asking people for suggestions about, you know, things that I could do because the plants are really up in there, and I had already lost one of my sugar baby watermelons that was kind of hanging there, because as the watermelon gets to a certain amount of weight, that pressure on the stem, you know, and it just kind of, you know, I found the watermelon on the ground, and it was just, oh my gosh, you know, I should have really looked after it and taken care of it beforehand. But just kind of to share a little story of earlier, uh, I was on Amazon making some purchases and figured I would make a purchase in order to take care of this issue that I'm dealing with, because I got one of the suggestions, one of the big suggestions was to get what are the pantyhose nylons, women's nylons for putting the watermelons into and kind of holding them up and hooking them up in order to help hold the weight up and allow them to grow and expand as well. So I don't know. I sat there probably, you know, for a few minutes, and I don't know why. I just, you know, at first, you know, I thought, okay, this is a great suggestion, and then, you know, I kind of mentioned it, you know, in a comment with the person who had suggested it to me in the video. It was like, you know, I don't know about ordering that. You know, I kind of thought about it then too, but I was like, I was on Amazon ordering some other things and thought, okay, I do need to deal with this issue in some sort of way. Let me go ahead and try this. I went on there, and then literally it took me a few minutes to actually click send. I don't know why. It's just literally to be ordering women's nylons, and and also, and I do got to actually mention something to my daughter as well too, now that I'm thinking about it right now, because she does share my Amazon Prime account with me and all of that. So I do want to assure my daughter that those nylons are being used for a watermelon. You know, it just really kind of felt weird about ordering that sort of stuff on Amazon, but you know, it's for gardening purposes. We're really trying to save some watermelon here. You know what I mean? And if I gotta or order women's pantyhose nylons on Amazon in order to save my watermelon, that's what I'm gonna do, okay? Yes, Christy laughing along. Thank you. It was really just, I was just thinking about that, you know, just as a, more so as it came to collecting, you know, confirm the order, you know. Oh boy, okay, I'm gonna do that. But it will be good to actually get that and try that, and you know, and hopefully, you know, I'll probably put that in a video maybe coming up here real soon about using and that suggestion, and see how that works out, if it really works out really well for us and whatnot too. You know, as we get towards after the National Heirloom Expo coming up, and I get back, that'll probably be right around the time that we'll probably get some really good ripe tomatoes and different things around the garden. Some of the melons and you know, cantaloupe and eggplants, and I don't know, a lot of all this sort of stuff. So we'll be doing some harvest videos and all this sort of things, as we'll get also moving on to doing some fall gardening and fall planting type of stuff. I have some ideas of some things, and I kind of mentioned that in the summer garden tour too, and showed some things that maybe if you go in and check out, you can help me out in the comments of that video as well, and some ideas and everything like that too, because I really want to get in and do some sort of things when it comes to fall gardening around here. I have some things that I actually do grow, but it's just, I'm not really utilizing the space that I have to the best of its value, and that's something I really want to get better at as I'm growing into these next seasons and whatnot, is getting better at utilizing those spaces in a more productive value, so that I can, bring in more food, more different types of food that I, haven't grown, and try to do that stuff and be able to, and also excel and learn more as a gardener about growing different varieties and those sort of things, as well as, like I said, bringing in more food and all of that sort of stuff too, in variety, as well, and having a lot more production in small space urban garden type settings too, and whether people are following along with the channel and utilizing it for small space gardening purposes and knowledge, and if you're following along for that, seeing how I'm using certain spaces can help give ideas to what you want to use and do for your spaces. Or maybe you've actually found better ways than what I'm doing, or things I haven't even thought of yet, and you could share some of those ideas to help kind of grow that experience, not just for me, but everybody else and viewers who are watching too, with more of the upcoming episodes of our channel, as we keep and continue growing on here in the Urban Gardener. It's been just really a really fun garden adventure for me. As I say all the time, I can't repeat it enough how much this has just really been a blessing for me in my life, to be able to get involved in a media like YouTube, and to learn and do these sort of things, to edit and make videos and be creative and do the sort of things that are kind of inside me as well, the creative side of me and all of that, to help share one of the real passions in my life is gardening and growing and doing the sort of things that I'm been doing and developing with the channel, and utilizing all of these different small spaces in our gardens, whether they're containers, and doing our 5-gallon water wicking buckets, these earth bucket type of things that, I got a video for in how to make and build, and, which is a lot of people and a lot of the newer subscribers who have been coming along with us this year, this summer, spring, summer, season, are people who have come to us through watching that video. I mean, that video really took off this year and has helped bring some people into what we're doing here on the Urban Gardener. And it's really great to have all of you following along with us. So if you're one of the people who is joining along with me because of that video, let me know. Let me know in the comments down below or whatnot, that's something that, where you started following along, or let me know which video you watched and started following along with me too. That would be kind of fun and interesting for me to kind of see where you all got started with and watching the channel and all of that. But it's, it's really all about just sharing these sort of experiences and utilizing these sort of spaces. Alleyway gardening, some people might not have an alleyway, but if you do, there's spaces that could be used, and different things that could be grown and whatnot, using those sort of spaces. It's some work, believe me, but it's fun. Like as I said earlier, it's fun work to have things and learn how to get more successful at doing certain things and all of that. It's always a process every single year. Gardening is kind of I think is what the saying was at the beginning of the last episode was, gardening is like a lifetime project, you never finish, it's just something that's ongoing. I mentioned to people, it's kind of like being a sports fan, of a team that's, struggling along, and you just get to a point in the season where you say, well, there's always next year, and that's the great thing about gardening too, there's always next year. And if certain things aren't working out as well, just learn from those processes, as I mentioned in the last video too, is learn, make notes of those processes, and make your gardens better the next year. Don't, a lot of people, and that's something too, in a sense that I see out there a lot in social media too, in these different garden groups and different posts and things that I see out there, is some people, or, actually, in some sense, seems to be a large group of people at a certain point in the season where you start seeing comments from people who are like, this just isn't working out for me, or this attacked my garden, or this happened, or this and that. And there really seems to be a certain level of real discouragement that kind of happens when there's some losses in the garden, due to, whether it's something that, you've done yourself as a gardener because you didn't quite understand exactly the process, involved with growing the plant or whatever it is that that you're growing. For me, like, I mean, there was a real big one for me was like garlic. It took me a couple of seasons to really figure it out, and exactly the concept behind how to grow that the most optimal way and all of that. And so there's a lot of those sort of things that you'll just start hearing from people, and they'll get really discouraged and want to just kind of quit. And I don't want anybody to feel like that when it comes to gardening. I want people to feel the passion for gardening in that sort of sense when they come here to the Urban Gardener, and know and understand that we're all kind of struggling along with certain things, and they're not happening the way we want to, but some things can work out and still work out better than expected and all that sort of stuff. But keep moving forward, find those sort of things that work, learn from the things that don't, and move on into the next season and have an even better grow the next season, and learn from certain things. That doesn't, and like I'm saying, and it doesn't mean, and it's also another kind of sports team analogy in some sense. If you're looking forward to next season, it's always with this idea that next season's better. Next season we might make it to the World Series, Super Bowl, whatever it is, but it's not necessarily going to be that way either. There's also, you might have learned from things, you might make things a bit better in next year's garden, but there's going to be certain other challenges next year, and there's going to be certain other things that are come up, and you're just going to have to learn from those things too. And it's a whole process along with it that, in learning those things just really, really makes growing all of this stuff even more and more fun and rewarding too, especially as you start getting those sort of things down. Sort of like talking about the garlic. When I got that figured out, and when I was really got tuned into growing garlic, I grow awesome garlic, and my garlic harvest every year is something I really look forward to every single year. Something that I really, and I'm rewarded with the fact that I took the time, I took those seasons, and I went through the troubles and the disappointments and all of that sort of stuff that came along with it, a few seasons in a row, in order to really figure that out. And don't be discouraged at all about the garden at all. Learn about them, enjoy the learning process, and at that point too, also each year learn to grow newer things and try different things, try different spaces, try different gardening methods, try different things with the garden too. It makes gardening just so much fun, so it's not, gardening's not the same thing every single year. You might grow a lot of the same sort of stuff, but it's not the same experience every single year. And as long as you got your head up and look into all of the fun that's involved with all of the good hard work that comes into having a really nice enjoyable garden like that, is just one of the great pleasures of gardening. And it's just one of the things I just enjoy so much, like I said, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm encouraged to come here every single Wednesday and hang out with all you guys and talk and talk and talk and blab on and on and on about different things and whatnot, and hopefully have a really great discussion with all of you guys about gardening, and sharing that passion with gardening with all of you guys out there. And if you share that passion and all of that, and you really enjoy the Urban Gardener, and you enjoy everything that's going on with the different episodes and all the different things that we're putting out there, please go and share some of this stuff out there. Share one of your favorite episodes out there and some of your garden groups and all of that, and let people know who we are and what we're about and what you've learned about the channel and all of that, and help other people learn about what we got growing on here on the Urban Gardener, because it's just, we're just out to have so much fun in the garden, and just kind of, as I say sometimes, I'm just a garden nerd, and I'm nerding out in my garden, just having so much fun, loving every part of all of it. There's nothing better, in a nice evening as the sun's going down and all of that sort of stuff, to sit back in the garden and see how everything looks, and enjoy all of the work that went into that day, making it, what it is and all of that. So, and I love sharing all of that with all of you guys too, But that being said, we're getting to a point here in our live stream. I like to kind of hang out for about an hour when we're doing the live stream. And a lot of that really kind of depends on the discussion too, So if there's any questions or anything like that that you have or anything like that, let me know real quick there in the discussion chat box that we uh, got going on right there. And if not, I'm going to probably end this live chat here real soon. So, Nancy, yep, yep, yep. It is really funny I mean, still when I think about it, I there's just some things when you're doing something. And here's the thing, I did order them on Amazon. They'll show up in a box. So the only person I guess I really have to worry about explaining the pantyhose to, I suppose, would be my daughter who shares my Amazon account with. But ultimately, I guess I'm glad I didn't. And which under the pressure of the getting them done and all of that, I do have the 2-day shipping, so I hopefully it'll be here real soon. But other than that, I just could you imagine going to this actual store, and I'd probably have to ask somebody what's what and this and that. I don't even know. Probably grab the wrong thing off of the shelf, but then have to go to, well, maybe I'd hit this self checkout center or something like that. I don't know, but just the idea of using pantyhose, nylons in your garden for a garden solution that really makes sense and could work out really well. So like I said, that's something that I look forward to, because once I get those, I'm gonna put them in the garden, and when it comes to harvest time for those melons and whatnot, we'll get that on video and show all of you out there how well that idea worked out, because it better work out for that. Okay, Christine. Okay, well, Christine asked a question here. Do you know the best time to transplant raspberry plants from containers to the ground? Okay, well, that's a good question. In fact, for people who know the channel or have seen some of the videos, one of the other popular videos that I have that people watch or have enjoyed them watching on the channel is my from garden to container episode I did on raspberries. So I did the very opposite of what you're asking actually in my video. I, I was trying to take the raspberries, which are a bramble, and they send out a trailing root under the ground system that just kind of pops up every now and then with a new plant, and they just start popping up everywhere, and that trailing root breaks out and divides out and goes all over the place. And raspberries can be a very invasive plant to grow. Now, that being said, if you're trying to grow raspberries and you've got them in a container and you want to put them in the ground, my first bit of advice is make sure that you're putting them in a ground in a place that you don't mind them spreading around in. A place that you're not, that you don't mind them just kind of taking off and going wild, is if, like you'd think of like, they're related to blackberry bushes and that sort of stuff. I mean, they'll just start taking off, and they'll start, like I said, the root system will go out and develop new plants, and they have a couple of cane different system that they have, and I talk about all that in the video and everything, and that was one of the main reasons why, because, and that actually kind of takes us back to what we were just talking about a little bit before, about learning about the processes in gardening and learning from the different things that we do in the garden and what we do. um, I had to learn from the fact that I took my raspberry, I bought some raspberry canes at a garden center, and just not even thinking about it, like, oh, I think this is, gosh, some raspberries would be cool, and I'll grow them right here. And it just happened to be in the middle spot of what it would end up being a big part of my side alleyway garden. And the spot that I put them in, I was just thinking, oh, they'll grow right there, and didn't, I you know, it was a learning process for me to figure out, oh, wait a minute, they're spreading and I'm getting raspberries growing way out over here and way out over there. And I ended up having to, over a couple of seasons, literally go in and dig out and dig through the whole garden system and dig out those rooting systems. And it's a process to find those. And you don't find them all either. What you'll have to do is you take out as much as you can and then you wait for them to pop up again, and then you get down and you find those ones and you pull that out, and then hopefully you'll be able to eradicate them. I finally did, but that was the process for me, was to take them out of the garden so I could put them in a container. And then was another learning process, because then I put them in a container and I put them in a part of the garden where they didn't really succeed very well in the container. So that was something that I have to get figured out for my next part in the whole learning process of raspberries. But putting them in the ground, I would say just in any planting type of season, when the ground, like they say in springtime, when the ground gets warm enough to work, get them in the ground. I would get them in the ground plenty of time before before it starts to frost, in order to develop a good root. You know, let the root system develop a little bit before the frost and the cold really sets in. But like I said, once those roots really set in, once they really start growing, raspberry's just gonna start taking off and all of that. So it should do pretty well. You know, I think the only real worry would be just being too close to frost in and I can't necessarily say exactly how close that would be, but if you're planting them now, they should be plenty fine, even for the next month or so. I'm sure you'd probably be pretty good putting them into the ground in order to establish a good root system and get them set up in the place that you want them. But if, you know, I'd love to have the type of space or place where I could really just get them in the ground anyways, because it would be the best way to grow them, to let them go wild, have a really good space where they can really spread out really good, and then have plenty of raspberries, because I love raspberries. So I would love to be able to you know, be able to harvest a lot of them if I was to grow them, which is the limitation of actually then growing them in the container like I'm doing too. My plants are only going to grow so much, and I'm only going to be able to get so much of a harvest. And that's the case with any plant that you're growing in a container. That's the one drawback to all of the small space gardening and all of that. We're trying to utilize the space that we have, but that drawback to that is that the production value is pretty limited because of not being able to grow in the ground. And that's always the better bet, is to grow in the ground, if you can and you have the space, and especially for things that spread out and take off. Mint, another one. Container, otherwise make sure you have a place where you can just take off. Oh, let's see here. Christine says she saw the video on the container raspberry yesterday. So excellent. That's great video. The one thing that I think I would, and I'll probably actually have to get back in there, I think I'll do like a little addendum in the description to that video, or maybe in the comments I'll pin it to the top or something, to talk about the issues that I came up later on with the raspberries in the actual container. Caroline says, sorry, bad weather, I'm losing my Wi-Fi. So she says good night. Well, good night. Hopefully you'll get to hear that or see that if you watch the replay, or check out the rest of this on the replay. We got Gene Tree Homestead. Excellent. Good evening. Good evening there. How are you doing? It's great to have you with us here on Live with Wednesdays on the Urban Gardener here. I'm just kind of continuing to go along here just based on the discussion. If you got any questions or anything like that, if you have any questions for me, questions about the channel, questions about gardening, anything at all, please hit me up with a question there, and we can kind of continue the conversation going there as far as that goes. I'm pretty open with time at the moment, so but normally this would be the time that I'd probably be closing out. We're usually keeping these discussions around an hour as we've been getting started. But one of the things I find is a lot of people do, like Patrice. Hi, Patrice. It's nice to see you. Hopefully we get to see you here pretty soon, coming up in a couple of weeks. But it's great for you to join with us here on the live stream that we've got going on here. And like Patrice joining us right now too. Some people are kind of joining in later on into the live stream. So I like to, you know, maybe kind of have some extra time here to kind of keep things going along a little bit. As long as we can keep the discussion going, though, we can kind of keep things going along for just a little bit longer here, and let everybody else get involved with the live stream here that I just get started with at 5 o'clock on Pacific time here every Wednesday. And hopefully continuing here this next couple of weeks, as I talked about earlier, as I go to the National Heirloom Expo. So one of the things for all of you that are joining right now or catching up with everything, one of the things I talked about earlier is that I'll be going to the expo in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to try to do the Wednesdays at 5 o'clock. So I'm going to try to find a situation where we can do that. But during the 10th, the 11th, and 12th, at any time on YouTube, I could possibly go live. Maybe even during that whole week, or the week or so that I'm gone down into California for that trip, I could possibly be going live on this channel to have some sort of discussion or talk about that sort of stuff. All just based kind of on the Wi-Fi type of situation that I've got. If they have a Wi-Fi that I can use there at the exposition, and it's got enough strength and whatnot to carry the live stream, then we'll go live right at the expo, hopefully have some people with us and have a really cool discussion. So that's something fun, hopefully, that we'll get to do here coming up too. But every Wednesday I like to get together and hang out with all of you guys. Gene True Homestead says, I'm good. I just started planting my fall garden. Are you going to have a fall garden? Yes, well, that's a great question. We were just talking about that just a little bit ago. I do and want to. I mean, really, it's something that I have a few things that I kind of put into the garden each year that kind of grow through the the fall, through the winter, and into spring and whatnot. But I'm not maximizing the space that I have for production and all of that for what I can do as far as fall and overwinter gardening. So that's kind of one of the things I'm really looking into. I'm kind of just getting a look around, thinking about the different possibilities of things that I can grow and all that stuff to really maximize my space and everything. So also one of the things I said earlier too is I encourage you all to go and check out the episode I just put out yesterday. It's part 1 of our summer garden tour, where I take everybody around the garden spaces that I have here in the urban gardens that I'm growing in. And there's some different places and spaces there that I would be looking for even suggestions. So if you go and watch that video and you have any suggestions about these are certain things that I could possibly do during fall planting or for a fall garden and all of that. And mind you, I'm in the Southern Oregon zone 8 area, so I do kind of get somewhat mild winters. So there's some good possibilities of things that I could possibly do in the garden that I'm looking at possibly being able to do. And it's an expanding of some of the things that I want to do and share with everybody in videos coming up on the Urban Gardener as well. So I want to be able to bring all of the you along for that process when it comes to the Urban Gardener on our regular episodes and all of that, as we do go into fall and all of that, and some of the things I'm going to work on when I get back from the National Heirloom Expo. And Patrice says she's good to see you as well. Yes, awesome. It was really great to get together with you, and I encourage everybody, if there's somebody in the discussion and they've got a channel, go check out their channel. Patrice is one of those channels that we did get to do a video with this last year, just before I went to the National Heirloom Expo last year, and we went to her place where she does all of her different garden projects for her channel, Patrice's Projects. You can check out her channel there. And we got together and we did a cool little interview and talked about some of the things going on in her garden and all that sort of stuff, and which is really one of the fun things about doing this channel, is to be able to get together with wonderful people like Patrice and to be able to share this passion of gardening with you guys and collaborate with people who are sharing on social media and YouTube and different things like that, Instagram and everything and all of that too, So, I really look forward to getting back together again this year with you, Patrice. So hopefully we'll be able to get together, do some sort of collaboration again, something around the National Heirloom Expo or something like that. So hopefully we can get together soon and talk about what we could possibly do there. That would be really great. And she says, I will only be there the 11th. I have a 5-day road trip on the 13th. We'll definitely do something then on the 11th or something like that as well too. So I'll look at what I'm working on my schedule, and I'll get together you on some sort of message, and we'll figure out what we can do. That'd be great. Patrice also says, get some starts going and put them in the ground right before you go. Swiss chard, spinach, carrots. Exactly. And that's exactly sort of the thing I'm going to be doing. And Swiss chard isn't something, I think I do have some seeds, so I probably will. But I definitely had in mind spinach and carrots because I want to see what I can do with carrots for the fall with the sort of container that I got. And then I'm going to try to utilize some of my space that I have in ground as well in a certain spot too, so that I can really see what I can do with the carrots, definitely. Um, Gene Tree Homestead says, I will have to go check her out. Excellent. Yes, definitely. And that's the one thing I really want to encourage with all of this is, a lot of us people out here who are sharing our gardens and doing all this sort of stuff and doing these YouTube channels. There's a lot of us who are just doing small little channels and small little projects and just sharing the joy we have for doing all of that. And there's a lot of people out there who are doing similar things with their channels, or just come online to enjoy the people who are sharing those sort of things. And it's really great to be able to share the space that I have here with the Urban Gardener with the other people out there doing those same sort of things, whether it's getting together and doing an interview and making a video, or collaborating in some sort of way with some of these folks out there doing these channels and all of that, or being able to just give a shout out to them, during these discussions on live Wednesdays, or, here and there on different episodes and all of that sort of stuff too, because I really encourage people to, get in and check out about all the different people who are sharing out there. Because we all have something really great to contribute to all of this fun that's going on when it comes to gardening. It's because it is just really a real fun and really enjoy it. And let's see here. Okay. Owen Petrie, Nancy says hi. Patrice, awesome. You're getting to say hi. I haven't been sharing lately. The garden isn't looking good this year. And that's something I'm hearing from a lot of people too, is that, this year seems to be kind of a struggle with a lot of different things when it comes to the garden. But we're all learning something, hopefully, too. It's something that I'm really stressing with everybody right now, and I'm hoping that everybody stays encouraged with gardening. Keep your head up about all the different things and problems and things that we're dealing with this year, and really make notes on some of those sort of things, and really go at next year's garden, and really look forward to a really great growing season coming next year too as well. Let's see here. She says carrots direct sow. Definitely direct sow your carrots. Carrots don't do very well planting them out in 6-packs. I do see that every now and then, carrots being sold in the little 6-pack things. I don't know how well that would work on a transplanting basis, or if they would really do well at all in that idea. I can't say I've actually tried it, but carrots definitely one of those ones you want to direct sow right into the ground. And let's see here. Gene Triome says that I planted a bunch of spinach and collards and mustard greens and Brussels sprouts. And I have broccoli starts that need to go in this weekend. Excellent. Yes, that's something I should. Yep. The broccoli is definitely something I'm going to have to do too. And talk about the Brussels sprouts. It's something I also mentioned in my last video, the garden tour. I grow these Brussels sprouts out, and really just kind of experimenting with them and checking them out based on something that I saw last year. So I want to kind of see how it worked this year. But ultimately, I probably could have done Brussels sprouts just at starts, probably just a little bit a while ago, and then got them, get them into the ground here coming up soon too, in that sort of sense, and then grow them into the colder season and see what kind of happens with that kind of growth. But I've got them already growing, and what I saw last year though, when I grew them and I had them growing just kind of on accident through the summer last year, is that they hit a point when the cool weather hit, and then they just kind of just really expanded and grew and stretched out, and all of that top of the plant just gave me a bunch of really nice Brussels sprouts. So I didn't, so I didn't really get much from all of what was growing down below, and the sort of the stuff that you see dying off and the leaves dying off through the summertime. But what I do have though are really well established plants with well established root systems. They're just, kind of staying somewhat dormant through the heat of the summertime. I'm having to really keep up with the bug pressure because aphids love a Brussels sprout, man. I'm telling you, they love that plant, and they like to, when they get going, the plants start to curl up. They like to hide in all those little curls. I kind of talk about that in the video too. I take a real, method of just trying to wash the plants on a day-to-day basis when the pressure starts to hit for the plants and all of that. So hopefully when the weather starts to cool down, I'm going to see that similar thing that I saw last year. And if that's the case, then that's kind of the way and method that I'm going to kind of work with the Brussels sprouts, because I have never really had success with them. In fact, Brussels sprouts, if you go back, I think, to when I first started this channel, I think like the second video, one of those very first videos I did, I was just starting the channel. I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out a garden challenge in my garden. I'm going to do this for the video for people who join with the channel and everything, and do a garden challenge. And mine was to grow something I hadn't grown before, and that was the Brussels sprouts. And I failed right off the bat. Just failed right off the bat. Wasn't successful at all with plant starts or anything. So when it came to that, it was a bad start. Didn't get off to a very good start the next year. Got them a little bit growing better, and then got some starts from that were already done from a garden center that had some Brussels sprout starts, and those plants didn't do too well. Really got ate up by the aphids. I kind of gave up on them at all. And then this last season, I grew the ones that I grew, and then that's when I started seeing all the, I really worked off the bug pressure. And then once fall hit, I saw what happened with the plants, and I was like, okay, so this is something I want to work with and try to see as an experiment, like on purpose, for this year's garden. So that's kind of what we're doing with the Brussels sprouts there that I have going. And I've got them growing in the 5-gallon water wicking bucket systems, and I have them also growing in a big above ground raised bed container that I have in the back patio area too. So let's see right here. And Patrice here, she's talking right here. I'm finally giving up on Brussels sprouts. Tried 3 times, and that's the thing. Like with, maybe if you try this next time, try it as kind of what I've done here. But the thing is that it does takes, and this, I guess this is the key, is it does take some effort on a day-to-day basis, especially when you get to the really. It just really seems when the weather, and especially being in California where you are, Patrice, it can be even more difficult because of the weather. The aphids just really, the pressure really gets hard with them. And what I end up having to do is really just every single day, get out there and get the hose and just shoot and jet spray those things off of the plants, and get into every nook and cranny, and then come back the next day and do that until the pressure subsides. And that I look at as where I can leave it for a couple of days and I'm not seeing them come back. Because if you're not seeing them come back really strong within a couple of day period of time, then you're probably really beating that pressure back. But if the aphids, they're very resilient. They'll hide in all those spots. You'll miss them. The plants will dry out. As soon as they dry out, they spread out again, and then there you go. They're reproducing and going crazy like that, and all over the plant again. And all of the other type of pests that eat them and all that sort of stuff just can't keep up with those types of numbers either. Everybody talks about like getting ladybugs and different things like that. I think lacewing and in fact, saw in your garden when we were there last year, praying mantis and those different sort of things like that. These aphids could just get to a point where those things just can't eat enough of them even. So you got to really take the effort to do that. But I tried. I found the way I got Brussels sprouts for my plants was to really let those plants go dormant during the summer, during the hot time of the year, and then have a good, well-established root system and let them do the growth that they do once the weather starts to cool down again. So that's what I do with that. Yeah, that's what Patrice says. It's like she had it in the ground from early fall until a few weeks ago, and she controlled the aphids, and it's just the climate, and that's ultimately what it is. I mean, Brussels sprouts are really a cool weather climate type of thing, and you are growing them for your area probably the best possible way, other than just being too hot for a plant to try to grow during the time you need to get it started during the summertime when the heat's going, when you get those starts going and whatnot. There's such a warm period of time, even right here in southern Oregon where I'm at too. It's just hard to get those starts and then get them transplanted into the ground without having that heat pressure just deal with those young starts. So that's why I was really kind of, you know, working with that idea, what I saw going through the summertime and letting the plants just kind of go dormant during that time in order to have a good established root system and all of that. But having them grow through that fall and winter time during that climate's the best time as well. So Tree says, I sure wish I could go to the Baker Creek Expo. So, yeah, I wish you could go too. I mean, as you saw last year, it's just such a fun, great experience to be able to get together with all of these great people who share passion for gardening and growing food and seed saving and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that I talk about in the videos that I did from last year is one of the really great things about that exposition too, is it's all about, ultimately it's a nonprofit. All the money, all the proceeds they make from that exposition all go to school garden projects and education, teaching kids about gardening and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that they're going to be doing this year is expanding that whole experience. And I saw in one of their posts that they put out recently, someone in the comments had commented, why can't you guys do it on the weekend? You do it in the middle of the week every year. um, you know and it's true, people have work and got to do that sort of thing and all of that. And it's really unfortunate for people who aren't able to make it on those sort of things. But like for me and all of that too, is that I really look at it as a time of year that I want to take time off, and I want to go there and I want to be able to enjoy and spend all of my time doing that. And so I take the time off to go and see the exposition and everything, but they do it ultimately in the middle of the week so that they can share the experience with all the school children, because that's the best time to get a hold of them and get their little minds and all of that enthusiasm as they get to see some of these really great things and all of the fun stuff that they just pack for children at this exposition, and being able to teach the next generation about growing food and pure food and organic gardening and doing all that sort of stuff is such an important thing. And that's one of the real great reasons to support Baker Creek and what they do with the National Heirloom Expo and all the other things that they do. They really, as a company, really put themselves out there to be, in the forefront of education and providing for education and all that sort of stuff. They do a lot of seed donating too throughout the year to different schools and all of that through their company and all of that in order to encourage gardening and everything too. So, it's something. It's such a great time, because not only do you get to have the next generation learning from this great nonprofit experience, but it's a fun get together for all of us garden nerds, as I kind of put it, to get together and to share our experiences and just have a fun time and all of that too. So anybody who gets a chance to make a trip out to Santa Rosa, California, to go to the National Heirloom Expo, whether it's just a couple of weeks from now this year, or it's next year or subsequent years to come. Make some time throughout the year in order to get down there and check it out and enjoy this really fun time. Baker Creek does some other. I think they do a spring festival that they do um, in the Midwest, and they do some other different types of things like that that are really great experiences too that I haven't got to go do and try out. I want to try that out and check out those sort of things coming up in years to come too for us and our channel and all of that sort of stuff too. And let's see here. Oh, okay. And see here, I just mentioned that too, and I was mentioning that without reading your comment, Patrice. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so I get you to say by festival, the spring festival that they have. I think it's Missouri. Might be some other place. I'm not sure exactly where their place is, but you're right. The festival back east would be great to go and do that sort of thing. I want to go and do that myself, and it is good to see. Okay, so you will be at this year's National Heirloom Expo. So awesome. Like I said, and I think that's what you were mentioning before. So it'll be great to be able to get together, hang out with you, and see you there while at the expo. And like I said, hopefully we'll be able to get together, do something, have some sort of video collaboration, something we can do around the expo or something like that would be really great, really fun, some cool content we could create for both of our channels too, get you going and doing some more videos for your channel and all of that, because I'd love to see you continue doing what you're doing with sharing and all of that sort of stuff, because you really have a really great passion for what you do, and I really encourage you to continue doing what you're doing. Says, I have a little gift for you for your garden. Excellent, excellent. I love your gifts. In fact, I did get to mention one of the gifts that you sent me this last year was that New Mex Big Jim pepper that I ended up practically choking all over while I was filming your video for your channel last year and all of that. That was kind of a funny experience there. Kind of got that pepper going down the wrong windpipe while we were filming and all that sort of stuff too. So and very tasty, very delicious pepper. And you sent me some pepper seeds and some peppers that I was able to get growing this year. We got some plants growing in the pepper garden of those Big Jims, and they're looking really nice. I got a couple of really great ones. I can't wait to harvest up as they get to ripen up here just a little bit more. But just really awesome that, you know, there's another thing that we get to do too, you know, with these channels and sharing and doing all that sort of stuff is also, you know, maybe sharing seeds and different opportunities to grow different things. Like I grow the Prax cherry tomato seed that I ended up getting from Ray Browning on his Practice 55712 channel. I've gotten seeds from other, let's see, what did I get? I got seeds from another YouTube gardener, Christopher Bransdahl, a good friend of mine from Norway, and he sent me Sugar Rush Peach pepper seeds, which I've grown out and developed and saved and sent out seeds to other people who are growing that same seed at different places. Chris, who joins in with the channel from Mexico, and other different gardeners out there, you know, so it's fun to be able to trade and do all that sort of stuff with seeds and everything with all of you out there. And then she says, garden nerds are awesome. Yes, we are. We're all awesome. Garden nerds, nerding out in our gardens. It's really fun to do. It's really great. We have, let's see here, we've been going on for almost an hour and a half. This is the longest live Wednesday that we've had so far. And I'm telling you, it's literally one of the, as the title suggests, of the live stream that I put out here. It's summertime gardening, and that's kind of what I've been dealing with the last couple of days. And as you'll see on part 2 of the video, the summer garden tour that I'm going to put out here in the next couple of days, is I just shot that video yesterday, and it was one of the hottest days of the year. I think we got up to like 107 or something like that. And just burning up. It's been so warm around here. It's just unbelievable. Well, it's believable. It's that time of year. but it's just really, really hot. And I even planned and prepared ahead of time for the room here for doing the live stream and everything. I had the air conditioner running the room when I first got started the live stream, because I turn it off. It's a loud air conditioner, so there's no way I can keep this thing running while I'm doing the live stream. But I turned it off right before we got started, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm already starting to get shiny. I'm feeling really like it's getting warm in here already. It's just one of those really, really hot times during the year. Really, a time that we do got to be kind of spending and taking some extra care of the garden and looking at things if we want to keep things growing and that. So we have to spend that little bit of extra time in the gardens to help beat the heat, help our plants beat the heat and all of that. But being out there in like 100+ degree weather is something else. I'm telling you what, is really something else. Um, but it's been great having all of you guys join with me, especially here having Patrice get in and have a nice little chat here live on our channel. I know you've tried to join up with us a couple of different times before, and kind of caught on at the very last minutes as we were just ending the program and everything too. So it's been really great to kind of get you in a part of the discussion and all of that. She also says, I just harvested a handful of Sugar Rush peach peppers that I saved seeds from the peppers you gave me. Yes, so we'll see, there you go. More people, and that was one of the, in fact, that was one of the ones, if you watch the replay, I was trying to think of different things I was saving seeds for and handing out to people and all of that. And the Sugar Rush peach was one of those, because I was really impressed with this certain pepper pod, I don't know, malformity or whatever, the way it just grew. And there were about 5 or 6 pods throughout the plant that just kind of had this way the end kind of grew a little bit different. Instead of it being more of a straight type of pod, it had like this really crumpled end to it. So what I did was I took seed from that plant and I kept the plants isolated away from the other plants, and I grew it out again the next year, just the pods from that. And what I found was that I still had some of the more straighter pods, but I had a lot more of this like crumpled end. So I grabbed the best, strongest looking one off of that plant, and I saved some seeds off of there were a few different pods, so I saved some seeds off of that. I shared some of them around with people, shared some other of the pods and stuff. I gave people actual pods, and I'm not sure, I think that's what you said, I gave you one of the pods. So but I kind of like how they were just kind of unique, and I got those ones saved. The only problem was is I got planting out all of my peppers this year. I ended up, and I don't know why or how I could even forget growing my Sugar Rush peach this year. So in fact, what I'm actually working on doing is starting up Pepper Start to actually try to grow over winter time. In fact, I'm kind of letting some something I was going to probably talk about next week or something, because everybody kind of thinks about and wonders about, and I get a question every now and then about the black inside grow room. It's a grow tent that I have inside the living room here, and some space that I've used for kind of like a little plant hospital in some sense, where I got some lights and all that sort of stuff. But what I want to do is kind of try to do maybe a little pepper grow or something like that, maybe some other types of plants that I can overwinter and grow inside of the little light room there. And one of them is going to be the Sugar Rush peach, because I didn't get to grow it this year in the pepper garden. And then hopefully continue to grow it again this next year. Keep the plants isolated, keep growing the strongest of those types of pods, and have a plant that's growing dominant of those sort of pods. So it could be kind of maybe an urban gardener t.U.G kind of exclusive Sugar Rush peach. You know what I mean? So it'd be like the t.U.G Sugar Rush peach or something. I don't know. I don't even know if I can do that or if that's even possible. But I just really like the way they were shaped. And that's the fun and cool things about peppers and everything, is all the cool different shapes and sizes and all that sort of stuff, as you'll get to see on our next episode. As I said, part 2 of our summer garden tours. I'm going to really focus on giving an update of the tomatoes and the peppers, but we've got other things to also finish up and talk about as we're covering all of the garden spaces around all of the different gardens that we got here growing this year in a two-part, because even if you look at it, I mean, I think it's part one's like 45 minutes. You know, I can't do a garden tour and go on, because if you can tell already, I literally had practically nothing to talk about. When I was racing to put together, and I've been doing that over the last few different live streams, just kind of going at it without not much, just see where things kind of lead and where they go. And as you can tell, I kind of have no problem kind of going places with discussions and all of that, as we're well past our hour and a half on this live stream already. But doing a garden tour and talking about all the different plants and the different things that we got growing on, I hate to feel like people think I'm rambling on or not, but it's just what I've got to share. It's just what I'm sharing. I'm sharing my garden, and I want to get out and show you all the different things that I'm seeing and learning and all the different things like that. And I have to do a garden tour in 2 or possibly 3 different parts if it comes down to it later on in subsequent seasons as we keep growing on here, because there's a lot to talk about in the show, and a lot that I'm proud of, and a lot that I'm learning from, and all that sort of stuff too. So maybe I'll just break them down into smaller parts or whatever, I suppose, but they're going to be more parts to a whole full tour of what we're doing. And that's part 2 with like it's mainly focusing on the peppers and the tomatoes, because that's what we grow the most of out of our gardens, especially in variety. I grow a lot of different varieties of tomatoes and a lot of different varieties of peppers. Peppers are looking amazing, as I said. We got a lot of really cool, shapes and sizes and heat levels, and some really good sweet varieties. I really, grew a lot more of the sweeter varieties this year. You I had the really hot ones because I enjoyed growing the plants, and like I said, checking out the different types of pods and all that sort of stuff. It really, it's really fun to have all those different varieties. But as I'm focused on more food production and all of that, as I'm really, really working on with the different practices and things that we're doing in the urban gardens in these coming seasons and all of that, I'm really wanting to find the best practices for best production, for more and more food and all of that. And for me, when it comes to eating peppers, I'm eating mostly the sweet ones, some hot ones here, or I'm making some powders out of some of the even hotter ones. But I'm not eating really, really super hot peppers. I do continue to challenge myself with growing the Carolina Reaper, because that plant continues to give me more and more trouble. But I plan on dominating it and having a really, really great plant someday. And but whether I'll ever actually eat one of those super hot peppers, I don't know. Now maybe if I could do a challenge video and do it, I don't know. I think I'd probably end up being really embarrassing for me, is what it would end up being, is if I did one of those super hot world's hottest pepper eating challenge videos. But those videos do really well for channels. So maybe it'd be worth it to get some views, maybe get some new subscribers and do that sort of stuff. But I don't know about how I would handle that. It would probably be pretty embarrassing. I've done some embarrassing things in my life, but hopefully a lot of them I can try to keep off of camera. Big chug of water there. Woo, like I said, it's getting warm. Warm, hot summer. It's great though. I love hot summers. It's one of the things I love about living in Southern Oregon. We have such great, wonderful summers where I get some good moderate warmth on each end of the summer, but I get that ultimate really good hot summer, which I really, really like. But like I said, it does make gardening just a little bit more of a challenge because of the time you have to spend in making sure things are growing right, and you're helping them beat the heat too. Patrice says, I have too many hot peppers, not enough sweet. Yep. And now, like I said, that was my case for the last couple of seasons too. I really want to eat more peppers instead of, what I was really doing was giving them away to a lot of people, as I was going and visiting people, like, here, I got some of these really hot peppers I grew out of my garden, if you like hot peppers. And I've had a lot of people who really enjoy them and like them. And, and another reason why I still grow a certain amount of them too. It's because I do have some friends and some people like that who enjoy them, so I like growing them and be able to give them to them and all of that sort of stuff. Um, and I did have a coworker, uh, uh, what, not last season, but the season before, eat one of my hotter varieties, the Devil's Brain variety that I have growing and I'm growing another one of those plants in our pepper garden this year too. So, but he ate one of those, and he was pretty confident in himself and how he loved hot food, and he was a hot food person, and he loves hot sauce and all that sort of stuff. So I brought in a few different varieties of hot peppers, and I let him know the different ranking of what they were and how hot they were, and he went right for the hottest one. Yeah, that Devil's Brain, and plopped that pod in his mouth, chewed it up like a champ, like that. He was confident. But I'll tell you what, it took not even 5, 10 seconds before his eyes lit up, and he knew he set himself up for something, and he was hopping and jumping, and it was really funny, and he really teased himself a lot about it in the coming days afterwards and all that sort of stuff, about it and everything too. He wasn't expecting it to be that hot. And as I told him too, even beforehand, I was like, a lot of those hot sauces you're eating, you know, are not even as hot as the actual peppers are. They're kind of cooked down a bit, and the heat levels are brought down just a little bit, especially for a lot of mainstream type of hot sauces. If you see like something that says, habanero or even Carolina Reaper or something like that, and some of these mainstream sauces, it's not as hot as an actual pod is. I can't say that for actual knowledge, but I watch enough pepper people and pepper reviewers and people like that to know a bit about that. She's like, just thinking about them made me thirsty. Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And she's like, Patrice says, I dehydrate them and powder them. I grew cayenne and really liked how I could easily add them to meals. Okay, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I do. I didn't grow cayenne this year, but I've got a couple of other varieties that are probably around that heat level too. But what I did is I took and I made two different powders, and I used, because I had a cayenne pepper plant. If anybody out there hasn't grown a cayenne pepper plant, and you can even be somewhat unsuccessful with a cayenne pepper plant, and it's only maybe this big and so big around and whatever, you're probably still going to get 100 pods off of it. That's just kind of the way the more successful, the better your plant is. You're probably going to end up with hundreds and hundreds of cayenne pods. So I had a lot, grew a cayenne pepper plant, and and uh, and I really do kind of like adding cayenne pepper to a lot of different meals and stuff myself. It has kind of the right type of heat level, but I also want to try maybe something just with a little bit more. So what I did is I made like a mainly cayenne pepper and mixed in just a little bit. I did one of bringing back up the Sugar Rush peach again. I dried out some of the Sugar Rush peach, and then I blended them up with mostly cayenne, but with just like, I don't know, let's just say maybe 5 parts to 1 is probably about what I did. And then I did the same thing with cayenne and I want to say habanero, but I think it was actually the Scotch bonnet. It's right around a similar heat level, whatnot. And so, about a 5-to-1 ratio of cayenne pepper to like a Scotch bonnet, just to kind of kick up the heat level just a little bit more. But and they were really really good powders. I really enjoyed them, and being like a habanero strength pepper, those actually, if I even did a pepper challenge, would probably I don't know, it probably I might be able to handle it with a bit of sweat and tears. Oh, that fly. But ultimately, it would be a tough one too, just to eat a straight pod of something like that as well too. But when you powder them down and you break it down and mix it up like that, it's not as hot like that, and you can just, like you said, easily add it to different things that you eat, or would add some sort of pepper, uh, dried pepper too. A lot with breakfast though too. That's one of my favorite things, is to kick the heat up on breakfast a little bit. Yep, that's probably going to be that. Actually, I'm burning up here. It's getting warm enough and everything, and I've been and having a really great time here. Actually, I also got, it's getting warm enough right now. The light in the room is just enough. I'm getting really bothered by these flies. They're really getting at me right now. So it's probably a great time to go ahead and break off here on the live stream and everything. Not too sure about how a long live stream will work in the replay and all of that, but if you are watching on the replay and you've made it this far, please hit me up down in the comment section below down there. And as I've mentioned earlier in the live stream, and I've mentioned before, something I'm really working on and wanting to do is share garden stories from all of you out there. We all have some sort of individual story to tell about how we gained our passion and love for gardening and the different things that we do and all of that. And if you have a minute or two or have some time at all, get down in the comment section below, kind of type out a little bit of what your garden story is there. And I'd love to be able to share that garden story with everybody else on an upcoming live stream there, and talk about all of those sort of things of where and how we all gain our passion and love for this I don't know if I really call it a hobby. Maybe it's a hobby for some people, and that would be a part of your garden story and all. But this is kind of something I do kind of, in some level fun, but it brings me a sense of accomplishment and all that sort of stuff personally, and also therapeutic in some sort of levels and all of that sort of thing like that. So share with me, share with me those sort of things like that. Let me know what your garden story is and everything too. I'd love to share with that in an upcoming live stream. But as far as all that goes, I will see all of you next week at 5 o'clock next Wednesday for next week's Live on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me here this week. We'll see you again next week.